It's my feel-good breakfast show.
A feel-good breakfast show. This is Expresso. Well, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, and we're talking about a topic that is very, very close to our hearts. Now, they say in modern day society, we wait longer to get married. We also wait longer to have children, and it does have an effect on how we want to have our children and also our ability to have children. Well, with us in studio to explore fertility and egg donation is our multimedia health specialist, Dr. Darren Green, is in our studio this morning. Morning, Doctor. You're going to have a chance to give us a call as well if you have any questions. 083-9133-728 if you want to give us a call. But let's start talking. We want to touch on the social aspects of infertility. So I'm talking here about the issues around men and women, especially when it comes to a person's manhood or a woman's femininity. What's your take on that?
I think socially, so many people are caught in a trap of a stigma around the issue and the pressure around the issue of when do I need to have my kids by, firstly. Secondly, how many kids do I actually want? How many kids do we want to share as a family, etc.? And then when to start. So you can imagine the pressure that puts on relationships, marriages, etc., when things don't go according to the recipe or the plan. And a lot of it is based actually just completely on ignorance of knowing, for example, when you come off an oral contraceptive tablet or the injection, how long to wait before you actually seek intervention or help from a specialist in fertility specifically.
I'm so glad you said that recipe because, you know, you get married and everyone goes, oh, so when are the kids coming? And I have to say that you don't have to follow the recipe, you know, each to their own.
Exactly.
What are some of the main causes of infertility in men and in women?
So in women specifically, obviously, you look at the organs involved there are systemic illnesses that involve the hormones and chemical balance in the female body. Even the thyroid, for example, that's quite important in controlling the ovaries and the hormones around the ovaries and how they actually maintain that cycle to produce healthy eggs, and the eggs need to travel from the ovary down the fallopian tubes, etc., to be met by a sperm cell for the embryo to be formed. So the problem can lie on any of those levels, from the brain level that controls the hormones that dictate this process, through to the structural changes that can occur in the ovary itself, in the fallopian tubes, and then, of course, the lining of the uterus itself that houses the egg and the fertilized embryo. In men, for example, the other problem would be, are they making enough healthy sperm cells? In other words, are the sperm cells healthy in shape? Are they strong enough to swim? For example, so their morphology is important. The substances that nourish the sperm cells to keep them alive, that are present in semen, for example, are they adequate? And then, of course, the mechanism of delivery of these sperm cells is obviously also crucial. So a lot of people are just so scared that they're the one responsible in the couple for not falling pregnant. And that's why, obviously, the topic is quite taboo and people wait a very long time before seeking help.
It's such a sensitive topic. It's
Indeed.
also a very exciting topic. And if you have any questions, we want you to give us a call, 083-9133-728. We are live, so know that when you speak to Dr. Darren Green and also to your Feel Good Breakfast show. Well, we also want to talk about children. How many times have you asked the question, little people, where do babies come from? Well, I'm not going to answer that right now. In fact, here is the story, and they're answering it for us.
Modern medicine and the gift of sperm and egg donation has helped millions of families around the world. After being introduced to egg donation through a friend, Candice Whitehead tells us about her journey as a donor.
For me, it was one of the most rewarding and life-changing experiences I've ever had. You're giving somebody that chance at a family and a life, and for me, that's the most amazing gift you could give anybody. I can speak to my reasons as to why I did it and the reasons why I continued to do it, but it'll be different for everyone. They're not my babies. I've just had a part to play in another woman's journey. I don't feel very much connection to the children, but I feel a very deep connection to the recipient, because by the time that they've, got to the point of egg donation, they've probably been through hell and back.
My husband and I decided to try IVF treatment after we had been trying to conceive for 3 years. We went to see a fertility specialist who then did some tests and told us that I had premature ovarian failure, meaning that I needed donor eggs to conceive. It took us 7 IVFs using donor eggs to have our baby. She is now 9 months old and the love of our life.
The discovery that one cannot conceive a child without a donor is a life-altering event that requires significant emotional adjustment.
On a psychological level, it was really difficult for me emotionally to get used to the idea of my child not having my genes. You go through a mourning process to mourn the loss of your genes, the fact that your child might not look like you at all, because we all grow up with that idea, you know, to have a child that is the perfect mixture of you and your husband. So I was concerned, especially with being able to bond with my future child.
South African law has a limit of 6 successful pregnancies per donor. It is considered a tissue donation and donor identity is confidential.
In South Africa, the egg donation and sperm donation is anonymous, so we're trying to have it as an altruistic giving act. So we're seeing it very much as giving tissue and helping another couple to be able to complete their desires to have a family.
Egg donors are treated with a high level of care as they receive hormone therapy to stimulate their ovum, and the extraction is done under anesthetic.
In the context of an egg donor, the egg donor would go through all the stimulation, will be taking hormones. During that process, she will be monitored by the fertility specialist to see how she has responded. So we'll be doing ultrasound scans to look at the egg follicle development. And then when they mature, a final hormone is given to trigger or to prepare the eggs for release, and then 34 to 36 hours later, it is extracted from her body under an anesthetic.
Once retrieved, the eggs are fertilized in a lab to create an embryo. The recipient would also undergo hormone therapy to prepare her uterus, and the embryo is implanted in the hope that a successful pregnancy will follow.
You know, between the doctors and the nurses, it's such a warm environment, and at no stage during the process did I ever feel like I couldn't ask questions or that this was this terrifying thing that was happening to me. It was something that I was part of. It's life-changing, it's rewarding, it's fulfilling. It changed my outlook on family, changed my outlook on myself as well. You know, it's quite flattering when somebody goes, "Oh, I kind of like your genes."
I would definitely recommend the treatment to other women or families. You know, it was a really hard thing to go through, but in the end, we were successful and we had our child. It was worth every injection, every tear, every cent we spent. When I heard her heartbeat for the first time, that was, you know, everything melted away. We have thought about how we would tell our daughter how she was conceived. We don't feel like it's a secret or something that we should feel ashamed of. We found some really nice age-appropriate books that we will use to explain the concept of egg donation to her from a young age.
It may be a costly, physically and emotionally demanding journey, but the blessing of a baby makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, and that blessing of the baby makes it all worthwhile. Well, we're talking about fertility this morning, 0839133728. If you want to give us a call, we are live on our Feel Good Breakfast Show with our multimedia health expert, Dr. Darren Green, in the house. Are there ways to improve fertility? I mean, I know of someone who wanted to fall pregnant. She needed to go on a diet. How does one improve fertility?
Sure, so for females, you've got to look at obviously why you're not producing healthy eggs. You might even have what's called ovarian failure, which is where the ovaries just cease making healthy ovums. And that happens obviously due to your age as time goes on, as you near the golden 40 milestone that people so often fear. So when it comes to fertility in women, one of the things that are pre-runner often is what's called polycystic ovarian disease. And those cysts then can occur particularly in the ovaries themselves and affect the hormone profiles that regulate obviously the release of and the formation of healthy eggs and then allow that process to continue.
I always have to say, and we say it on the show often, you are not alone, and our multimedia expert is here, and there's always your doctor and support. And we have Joan from Pietermaritzburg on the line. Joan, you're live on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. What's your comment or question?
Good morning. My question to the doctor is, I've had 3 blighted ovums. What are they and what's the cause of it?
Okay, thank you, Joan. Thanks for opening up and for asking your question. Did you hear that, Doctor?
Yes. A blighted ovum occurs when the actual outer shell of the ovum itself might be structurally abnormal. You also have sometimes, a blighted ovum that implants into the wall of the uterus, for example, that causes then a hormonal or emotional and hormonal response in the woman itself. So often you can actually think that it looks like a pregnancy as well when you look at the sonar, for example, but you don't see a heartbeat, for example. And then also, you'd also look structurally at the beta HCG, which is the pregnancy hormone levels, at what rate they're increasing, etc., because there are tables that are modified for that to look at that growth process. But there are other things that give you the release of that pregnancy hormone, the beta HCG, that aren't a pregnancy itself, and one of them obviously are a molar, for example, and the blighted ovum is something that also occurs.
Well, 0839133728 if you want to give us a call or open up or have a question to Doctor this morning. I heard medical aids don't cover fertility treatment, and I would imagine that it's a common problem or a common occurrence. Why is that? I mean, it's a costly exercise.
And people feel it's really unfair. So, firstly, there are certain ones that do in certain circumstances where the workup and the pre-workup that gets done for fertility needs to be very, obviously, accurate. So one of the reasons is when you're doing fertility treatment, in other words, if you're taking a drug to enhance the production of ovums, healthy ovums, you can imagine you have overproduction of eggs, which increases the risk and the likelihood of having multiple pregnancies. So for a medical aid and for the individual as well, your risk of having a multiple pregnancy, in other words, twins, triplets, increases with fertility treatment. But the hospital, obviously, the risks involved increase with that. The cost in hospital, the duration of hospital stay, the likelihood of having prem babies has also increased in twin and multiple pregnancies. So you can imagine the spin-off of that in terms of health costing, etc. So I think that's where a lot of that comes into place.
Well, we'll keep talking about this topic, fertility and egg donation, if you can call it that. That's what we're talking about this morning, 0839133728, if you have a question or comment to our doctor. But Leigh-Anne is also talking about something that is very close to my heart, how couples can conceive naturally, and it seems that there are a few options out there.